Good afternoon, Aubrey. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm excited to talk about today's topic. Um, Great question from a listener about trying to find a way to get your IELTS tests graded for free. And I'm sure that is something a lot of you have wondered about. But we have a couple announcements first.
Yes. First of all, we want to share a couple of poll results on Spotify. Spotify, you can respond to a poll, and we're always posting polls
So
there. They're
fun.
very fun. Recently, one of our episodes, the question was, which is more difficult for you, IELTS reading or IELTS listening? 38% said reading and 61% said listening. It's always
That
really
surprises
interesting
me.
to see these results. That surprised me too.
Yeah, that really surprises me. I think that tells us we have to do a lot more listening episodes.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, I'm just going to highlight that right now. I know we've done some listening practice episodes in the past, and I think you guys really loved them. We got some good results, good feedback from those. So we'll definitely be listening to you and bringing you more listening practice. And then the
Absolutely.
next Spotify poll was also really fun. Did you play soccer when you were a kid? And here I'm not surprised because
Right.
our audience is international. What were those results?
Yeah, 65% said yes, only 34% said no. I
Yeah.
love that though. A lot of people answered this poll, which I think is so fun. That was a really fun
So
episode
cool.
with your sample answer about playing soccer as a kid. And this is such a fun way for you guys to interact with us to respond to these polls
Yes.
in Spotify.
We love it. We love it, you guys. At the end of today's episode, we're going to announce the Spotify poll, and we would love for you guys to answer that. So stay tuned for the end of the episode, guys. And remember to hit follow right now because not only are the polls fun, every episode is also fun. So hit follow, guys, so you don't miss it. 2 new episodes every single week. One of my favorites actually was just last week, 1322 sample band 9 talented task 2 essay. We gave you guys a whole sample band 9 task 2 essay, talked you through it, taught you the vocab, the strategies, the structure. So definitely go back and listen to that episode.
Yes, I know if I were studying for the IELTS exam, I would have been like, "Oh, this is gold," when I
Yeah.
heard that episode. So, so good. Because not only do you get the full task 2 essay, but to have us
Yeah.
explain to you, like, why, what about this essay is getting this band 9 score is so
Right.
useful,
Exactly. Yeah, because it's one thing to read model essays as a student, and one, like,
right?
you don't know if they're band 9 or not.
Right.
And if you are told they're band 9, maybe you don't know exactly why. So, really, we need to know these things to learn from these model essays. So, definitely go back and listen to last week's episode, guys.
All right, so today's question was amazing. Shreya, like you said, Jessica, I think a lot of you out there have this same question. She asked, "Do you know where I can get free practice tests that are graded?"
So, right off the bat, let's just say yes for listening and reading because that's easy, guys. You grade it yourself. If you're doing IELTS practice tests, you're getting some free practice tests. You're doing listening and reading, right? Make sure that it's the full practice test, right? Like for reading, like it's all 40 questions or whatever. And then it's super easy. There are IELTS band score calculators where you just put in the number you got right out of 40 and it gives you the band score. Like that's super simple, right? So listening and reading, yes, for free. You can grade it yourself, tons of resources. However, I don't think she was asking about listening and reading. I think she was probably asking about speaking and writing.
Yes. And with speaking and writing, there's a reason that this isn't available anywhere, right? There is a lot of training and experience that goes into being able to grade your speaking practice or your
Mhm.
essays and give you an accurate score. Right.
Yeah.
This is not something just anyone can do. If an English speaking friend tells you, no problem, I can do that for you and tell you your score, don't trust them. They don't know what they're doing. Like, you really have to be an expert in the IELTS exam.
That's so funny you said that because it triggered this memory. And this is like years ago. I remember I was teaching a student one on one. Um, talking him through his score for his task 2 essay, and he's like, "Oh, wow, I just got like an 8 on a task 2 last week." And I was like, "Huh, how? Who graded that? Who gave you that 8?" And he's like, "Oh, a coworker. She took IELTS before and she got a good score, so she graded my essay." I'm like, "No, she
No.
can't. She can't give you that score." Um, no, I mean, you got a 6 today. I kinda doubt you got an 8 last week.
Right. Well, and I imagine, like myself, before I started working for All Ears English, before you trained me to be able to grade these IELTS essays, or you before you were an examiner for
Mhm.
15 years, yes, like we did well in English in college, right? I got
Yeah,
excellent scores on academic essays. That did not prepare me to score IELTS essays. It's so specific. The scoring system is so specific. There's so much you have to look for that it just doesn't happen. Not every native speaker can grade these essays and give you accurate scores. It's just not possible.
so let's dig into why, guys. Why do you have to pay someone to give you a score for IELTS speaking and writing, even if it's just a practice test? Why? Yes, I wish they could be for free for sure, but here's why they can't be. First of all, let's just think about the time it takes for someone to grade you on speaking or writing. So, a whole speaking test is 11 to 14 minutes. And if you are just sending that file to someone and they're listening to it and they're grading it, they have to listen to the whole thing for 11 to 14 minutes. And then they have to take an extra 5 to 10 minutes to think about your score, to justify it, to give you reasons, right? Um, so that's the first thing is the time. What about
And
writing?
really quick on
Yeah.
time, we also can't discount all the time it takes for someone to become an expert for everything you have to learn. This is something people sometimes don't think about, I think, with teachers, is there's all this time getting the knowledge you need in order to be able to do that. Because again, not every native speaker could just sit down and take that 11 to 14 plus 10 minutes and done, right? There's all this
Exactly.
education and training that is sort of on the back end. So you have to consider that as well, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I just made a note of that while you were talking. That's
Nice.
exactly what I wanted to say. Because in order to be a certified IELTS examiner, you have to go through like this. First of all, you have to do this whole application process. It's pretty extensive. You have to meet a lot of high criteria in order to be considered to be an IELTS examiner. Master's degree, teaching experience, like all this stuff. And then you have to go through the actual training once you have been accepted. And it's 2 full days, but not everybody passes that. Like it's not easy, right? And then you're periodically checked after that. You're like quizzed and tested to make sure that you're giving the right scores. That's a lot of time and a lot of expertise that you are paying for in order to get a valid score.
Right, exactly. So we have to consider that, right? When you were first training me for IELTS, there was so much information, right? And I had kind of the scoring system that I had to learn and then, practice grading essays and because every essay is so different. It's not that
Mhm.
rote, which is like something that
Mhm.
becomes repetitive and very easy because there's
Mhm.
so many different things that students can throw at you or that just different
Totally.
things in essays and the scoring system is very complex as well.
Yeah.
Where, some things like certain errors or certain things that a student would do really well, there was a big learning curve to figure out like, how would that affect their score? Would this make it a 7 or would this keep it as a 6? There's so much that goes into it.
So much. Yeah, 100%. That's why I mean in Aubrey getting certified to give these scores to you guys for IELTS speaking and writing, she went through a months long training process, you guys. It wasn't just like, "Oh, you're hired. You can do this. Here's some information." No. It was online training between the 2 of us live. It
Yeah.
was checks like, "Read this, send me your scores," constant conversations about it, back and forth. It
Yeah.
took months, you guys.
Yes, absolutely. So it's interesting if you think about the grading process, right? So for speaking, when students Often we'll do, a one-on-one test where it's like a mock speaking exam for our
Mhm.
students. Really gives them a good idea of the timing and what the process is going to be like. What will it be like on test day? Or
Yep.
even if they've taken the speaking exam a few times and haven't gotten the scores they need, so helpful to be able to have that one-on-one mock speaking test and then immediately get feedback, get your scores and why. I go through for each part, right? Like, okay, part 1, we're going to talk about your vocabulary score, your pronunciation score, your fluency and coherence, what you said that gave you the score, right? And then we
Exactly.
average it all together to get your overall score. And the most important thing, I'm giving them specific feedback on what they need to work on and how they
Mhm.
need to do that in order
Yeah.
to get those scores up to where they need to be.
Yep, exactly. So, this process Aubrey's describing takes half an hour, right? So it's half of it is the speaking test itself, and the other half is just us giving you very detailed feedback. Like an example of that is um, fluency and coherence. You used great linking words in part one. However, in part two, I didn't hear any good linking words besides and but. So I need you to work on a list of time transition phrases. Like it's that specific, right? Telling you exactly the small thing to work on that will increase your score. So expert advice there. And then for writing, like that's a whole other process. That takes a while.
Exactly. And these days, you may have someone who was an examiner, but maybe they were only an examiner for speaking. They can't grade your essays
Mhm.
either if they're
Good
not
point.
trained to do that. It's tricky.
Good point. Yeah, for sure. And again, it takes time, it takes experience, it takes intelligence, it takes dedication. That is why you have to pay for these things, right? Finding that for free, finding expertise for free is impossible unless you're also giving them something. You know what I mean? Like nothing is ever for free or else it's too good to be true.
Yes, exactly. It might just be throwing you off. Like that student that they thought they were scoring eights for their essays when they really weren't. They
Right?
rock up on test day, get a 5.5 or a 6, and then they're frustrated with their friend who said they could give them a score. It's just
I
a
know.
lose-lose, right?
Totally. So, guys, final note on this. When you are evaluating what of your resources, your time, your money you could put into IELTS preparation, if you are considering getting scores and feedback before your exam, which I think you should, because you do need to know you're ready to take the exam. You know, like I don't know how you pay $300 or whatever to go take this exam if you're not sure you're going to get the scores you need. Seems pretty risky. So, um, just keep in mind, it is not a waste of time and money, right? Like, how useful is this grade to you? This grade that you're paying for, it tells you if you're ready to take the exam. It tells you, it should tell you exactly what you need to work on to increase your score, right? Like, exactly like this specific kind of vocabulary, these linking words, these filler phrases, so you don't say and this one sound in English you keep saying wrong and it messes up your pronunciation score. That is not a waste of money. You know what I mean? So that tells you that you are ready to take the test. You rock up with confidence. And that also helps you perform better on test day.
Yes, I think it's such a good point. This is an expensive exam to go take. So
Yep.
that's really worst case scenario. If you go test day, don't get the scores you need, and that's how you find out you weren't ready. That's a
I
very
know.
expensive way to gauge whether you were ready or not. When there
Right?
are, right, we have the ability for you to get feedback on your speaking, on your writing, so that you know if you're ready or not. And like you said, Jessica, exactly what you need to be working on, what you need to improve to get the scores you need on test day.
And also beware of feedback that is like the IELTS exam where they don't tell you what you need to work on. Like you just get the
Right.
score.
You're like, "I
Oh, I
didn't get
got
the
a
score."
6. Why?
Why? I
Who
don't know.
knows? Because that doesn't necessarily help you a lot
Doesn't help.
either, right?
Yeah.
So do make sure that you're getting what you pay for, right? That this is worth your time and money. And just to remind you guys, in the Three Keys IELTS basic course now, the basic version, everybody gets personalized feedback on their speaking and writing on the final practice test. So you do get this feedback we're talking about for speaking and writing. So go check it out, guys. allearsenglish.com/keys. That's KEYS. Check that out, guys. And finally, what is today's Spotify poll, Aubrey?
Yes, we want to know. The question is, what IELTS resources do you use? Your options are free or paid, right? We want to get an idea of students out there, how many of
Yeah.
you are just using free resources online and how many of you are, taking that extra step, investing in yourselves to pay
Yeah.
for feedback for speaking and writing so you know if you're ready.
I'm honestly curious.
I
I'm
am too.
honestly very curious about these answers. If you're listening on Spotify, please take a minute to answer that poll question, and we will announce the results in a future episode.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. It's a fun episode.
It was very useful. All
Yes.
right, Aubrey, have a good day.
All right. See you later. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.